Hi everyone, how are you? This is going to be a good video. I'm going to explain how to write a business plan for a tech startup or a mobile app. And if you're in a tech community, you may be aware that people are kind of moving away from business plans, and they don't know if they should write them or how to write sometimes. So I'm going to explain the basics of like whether you should have a business plan and when to have a business plan, and then I'm going to explain how to write a business plan for a tech startup or tech business or like a startup or an app, because those are very different business plans and businesses from your regular like mechanic or lawn care, right? So number one, our community, the tech community, is sort of moving away from business plans because, well, they're really just moving away from the long 20-page business plans. Those long things are out, but people still want to see that you can express your business in a short and effective way. Because how are you going to express it, in a written form? And you can do it as a short business plan, like a couple of pages. Sometimes people ask for as little as 1 page, or you can have a business plan that some people even ask sometimes for like a slide, like an investment deck, which is like a PowerPoint deck, just covering the basic points. Because before people get really deep, and this is usually investors, before they get really deep into looking into your business, they want to know the high level overview, because most likely they're not interested, because they see so many businesses that they need to quickly determine if that's a yes or no. And so they have this filter, and they need to kind of quickly browse something to determine whether that may be a fit for them or not, and whether to have the second meeting or not. So it doesn't have to be a business plan. And sometimes if you are approaching investors, they may ask you for particular things. They may ask you for a slide deck. They may ask you for a short business plan and da. Sometimes it's okay to ask, like, what form of documentation do you want? And sometimes they'll say a short business plan, sometimes they will not. So you may not need it. The case when you do need it, in my opinion, and I mean, I originally wasn't a fan of like business plans, but they are effective for you personally and for your team, because you're able to express your entire business model just as a document for your internal use and your internal team you're able to structure your thoughts and organize your thoughts, and kind of have that presented in one document, and all your team members can be on the same page, and it's organized. And most importantly, when you put things down on paper, you kind of see a lot of your mistakes sometimes, and you can discuss things with your team. So it's really helpful. It's also a very kind of good tool to find what are like the kind of like where are we going wrong, because what you're really doing in the business plan is you're expressing your business model. And a business model, many people get confused with this term, and because many people have these confusing definitions. But really, in simple terms, the business model is a way to express how every piece of your business is going to function together, how it's all going to come together, right? How the product is going to get marketed, and how you're going to make money from that thing, And if your business has other components like supplies, warehousing, tech businesses usually don't have those. So basically, it's those. To simplify, it's really those three: how are you going to make the product that people love and get engaged with? How are you going to market that product? And how are you going to make money from all this? And you should certainly have that in your business plan, and you should certainly kind of go into some savvy and depth in those things, right? Because as you know, like, online marketing is very complex these days. That itself, I mean, you can read a lot about that. So it is a good way to really structure your thoughts and making sure that you've got all those important bases covered, and that they're going to work together well. Because sometimes they don't work together well, and when one piece moves, one piece changes, it changes how that's all going to work together. If your marketing strategy changes a little bit, or like let's say your product changes a little bit, then the marketing strategies to promote it change a little bit, and then you're going to get slightly different type of customers because they come from different sources, and then those customers may not monetize in the same ways. So it's all kind of complicated, and the devil's really in the details. So you should have this. You should have it. All right, let's move on to how to do it. So you always want to focus on your target market, because without it, you don't know who the product is for and how to promote it to them, right? So you always want to know your target market. The target market is usually, and I have videos for how to identify your target market, and I have a video for how to calculate the size of your target market. But what you want to do is identify them. The first thing is, there are two kinds of ways you can identify them. There's demographics, age, sex, income, education, geography. And then there's like psychographics. What do they like? What do they prefer? What are their consumption patterns? What are their hobbies, right? So what is going to motivate them to and those are, you got to get those, they both work together, right? It's not just about the demographics that are like, oh, this person has to be this age or educated. It's also like, what are their preferences? What do they like? What gets them excited? What are their needs? So you got to combine demographics and psychographics, and then you got to calculate what is the total market, and then you got to calculate like what segment of that market can you actually address with your marketing strategies, and who of the people who you reach, who can become clients, right? So that's your target market. Of course, the important part there is the size of the target market. If you are looking for investment in the tech space, typically investors in tech, they like to invest in really, really large markets. Now, every market seems like it's large when you put a dollar amount next to it. Like if you say $50 million market, sounds big. No, that's actually small. So they want like markets with a B, billion-dollar market, because you're not going to capture that whole market, and they really need to invest in companies who are going to become really gigantic. So there has to be space to grow there. So that's one thing that investors like. They also like fast growth. So fast growth, big market. They also really like proven teams. Most of them are okay with non-proven teams, but it's so much better if you have a proven team. And proven team means you've sold or successfully built or sold a company before. They have many more criteria, like they like to invest in different sectors, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into it here, but you can just browse angellist.com. Most of them are listed, most of the investors are listed there. But we're just going to focus on business plans for this kind of thing. The next thing is, there's this tricky thing where, if you have a non-tech business, like a simple business, like a mechanic, or, that business is a commoditized business, and most of the variables are known. But in your case, most of the variables are unknown. If you're doing something innovative, you don't know. Like if you're making an app, like actually when I made my first app, I made many mistakes. I actually made a mistake in identifying my target market. I tried to identify my target market, but I just did it incorrectly, because what I thought the target market was kind of going to be like, they didn't want what I built for them, and I did my sort of like, I got some feedback, and I was, it's like, maybe I actually should have gotten more feedback. But anyway, so I kind of didn't get a target market right, because you really know the target market for a mechanic for your car, but you really don't know your target market sometimes for your tech product, because you're sort of trying to figure it out. A large part of it is actually you're figuring it out. And because I didn't know the target market, I kind of made a mistake on the target market. The whole trickle down was a little bit wrong, because I didn't market to them the right way at first. Then I didn't create the product that was perfect for them at first, or satisfy their needs. So everything was just off, and so that's what I want to. But that's the sort of what I want to kind of caution, is that really, really, really focus on the needs of your target market. Then the second thing is, experiment, and try many things. Once I launched my app, I used Eric Ries's famous sort of LeanStartup methodology, where you put out a little kind of minimum viable product, make sure that it's viable, not just minimal, and then sort of iterate and get feedback. So my feedback, I really, I got some users, and I saw what they were doing, and I saw like, oh my god, I totally misunderstood the target market. So I changed, at first it gave me a more insight into the target market. Then I changed the product accordingly. Then it improved a little bit, and I kind of kept that cycle going, and those apps became pretty highly rated apps now. So I mean, they're pretty successful apps, but it was a matter of experimenting all the time. So that whole lean startup approach, it's a matter of experimenting. So the business plan, the one reason why there should not be that much focus on it in technology or apps is because you really don't know any of these variables that you're going to be writing. You may know how various revenue streams monetize, like ads. That's known. You may know some pieces, right? But you really don't know whether this new product is going to be liked by people and by whom, Often when people make these apps, they think they know, but then it becomes kind of they get surprised, like, oh, why is my product used only by this demographic? What the heck, And it happened to me, and it happened to some people I know, and actually I don't know anyone who got it totally right at first. It's always like a little experimenting. Well, I kind of actually do know some people who got it right, but it was very clear in those cases. So you want to make something. If you're making something innovative, you should certainly not spend too much time on the business plan, because spend more time on actual experimentation and putting that small prototype into the market. One thing that holds people back is that they think that if they write a really good business plan, they'll get funding with which they can hire a developer to make the prototype. And that's not going to work for many reasons. Number one, developers are pretty cheap now. Like for only a few $1,000s, you can have a prototype. You should. If you don't do the prototype thing, and your version 1 will be like this full baked app, then that's a recipe for kind of disaster, because number one, it's going to be a big project. It's going to take months. It's going to be expensive, which you will need to raise money, and most likely that will go to some waste. Because you're going to be overbuilding. You don't know how the users will accept this product. You don't know if you're going to be able to get traffic to it. There's so many things you don't know. You don't want to release a bulky product, and I see that mistake over and over and over. I think it's happening less now, but so no bulky product. So small kind of iterative approach. Then once you do this iterative approach, you start to not need a lot of money. And waiting around for funding with your business plan, you're not going to get funded with just a business plan unless it's like some people you know, or it's like you're doing a Kickstarter campaign or something. But most of the time, people struggle with raising money for something that hasn't started. So in a way, I mean, it's almost better to, get it, you can save money by working and just spend a couple $1,000s and get that prototype made, see how people respond to it, things like that. That may be a better approach. Of course, the better approach is to be able to make it on your own, so you don't have to hire anyone. That's kind of what I did. Because it would have ended up really expensive if I had to hire someone, because it's taken a long time. It wasn't just the prototype, it was like prototype and then after. So that's kind of it, right? So you want to focus on your target market, you want to understand them, but also you should understand that you very likely are going to have many things that you misunderstand about them. And understanding that will help you to kind of not stick to this business plan, but try to get closer to get those questions really answered by the market, right? So you're not going to answer it in that theoretical business plan, it's going to get answered by the market itself. And that's how these innovative business ideas with apps and websites, that's how they typically find success, not through the business plan, not through the formal business plan, right? So just use the business plan to organize your ideas. If investors ask for it, ask them, what documentation they need. If they ask for it, write it. But if they don't write it, don't focus on it that much. Focus on experimentation. And focus on figuring out, do have a deep sense of the main pieces, but know that most likely this is not going to be how it's going to play out. at least in many cases, what people think isn't that what ends up happening. So that's it. That's how I would recommend approaching business planning for tech startups or apps or things like that. Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoy this, please subscribe to my channel. I post this kind of business videos almost every day, and actually often I post more than one a day. And I just give a ton of different advice like marketing, fundraising, things like that. And of course, please check out my mobile apps at problemio.com or search for Problemio in any of the app stores on iOS, Kindle, Nook, Android. Search for Problemio or business planning, and it's like I'm one of the either the first or one of the first apps. And of course, you can check it out on problemio.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.